Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. But they fought with expert timing. There were funky Chinamen from funky Chinatown. They were chopping them up, they were chopping them down. It's an ancient Chinese art, and everybody knew their part. From a fainting to a slip, and a kicking from the hip. Everybody was kung fu fighting.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, wait till you see his toad stance, Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
Boy, look at that gizzard.
And he wishes he was called Donut, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and this is exactly how I thought Kung Fu worked when I was a kid.
Yeah, you just say a couple of things, you grab some stuff that's around, and you just start beating the crap out of everybody. Bruce, you'll like this story as an eye guy. When I was a kid, I got glasses at a very, very young age. They actually, in fact, thought I would not be able to see through as an adult and everything. So that's kind of a nice little miracle. But at like 3 years old, they put glasses on me and stuff, and all of a sudden, I started freaking out. I started just jumping all over the place, and they were like, my mom started freaking out. She's like, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And she looked at me and she goes, "What are you doing? What's going on? What's happening?" And I just said, I wanted to see if I could do karate with my glasses on.
That is the most Bruce story that you've ever told, Adam.
And it turns out that I could. And like, I'd never taken a karate class in my entire life, but I got the glasses and wanted to see if I could accomplish the karate with said glasses on.
That, man.
That is a great story.
Good news for everybody.
Beautiful.
It worked.
That needs to be your bio from now on. That's just it. No matter what the context is, that story is your bio.
Thank you. And we thank you guys for tuning in this week because, boy, patreon.com/HMP. I don't know what you know, but those guys, they get pre-show, they get post-show, they get the Dinger Zone, and they get to vote on the movies that we watch. And this month, here were the nominees. We had Mortal, Ip Man, House from 1977, Thirst, but one out by a fairly good margin is Kung Fu Hustle from 2004. And I got a story for this movie too.
Oh, I want to hear the story.
So when I was, it was 2004. It was Star Wars Celebration 3 in Indianapolis. And it is my birthday. This movie came out on my birthday. We got to the Indianapolis Convention Center like Thursday. Then that Friday we were all around doing all the stuff, and it got to the end of the day, and I didn't even remember that it was my birthday. And then I was just like, "Oh shoot, it's my birthday! We need to go out tonight." Kung Fu Hustle came out. So Kung Fu Hustle was the movie that we went to go see at the Star Wars convention.
Man,
so, that was like,
so did you know anything about it before going into it?
I think I did. Like, I tried to like go through my mind and weed out how I knew to go see this.
Had you seen Shaolin Soccer?
Oh my God, I got a
wow,
stereo.
that was
That's
stereo.
beautiful.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. I think I had
How's that make you feel awful?
I'd heard of Shaolin Soccer at that point, but had not seen it yet. And if you had seen it in America, most likely at that point, you'd probably seen the cut up Miramax version, which I do not recommend to anybody. It is like, it's atrocious. And I don't really mind dubs, but what they did was they chopped out bits of the story and replaced it with like really horrible like 2000 soundtrack. Get away from that. Watch the original cut. But it's like I think I found out probably like Total Movie Magazine or something. When you got that magazine, they also gave you a DVD as well that had trailers on it. So this is before you would look at trailers on the internet like we do today. They sent you a magazine, and in that magazine had a DVD with trailers on it. I'm fairly certain I watched this trailer on one of those DVDs. I never had
one of those DVDs, but I probably would have thought it was the most awesome thing ever back then.
That's how I found out about Memento before it became a giant thing. It came as a trailer on one of those DVDs, and when that movie came to town, I was like, we got to go see this. And they were like, nah, I don't want to know. I'm like, trust me. And we went, and turns out it was amazing. Those discs were really cool. But you guys voted. We're watching Kung Fu Hustle today. But if you like to be like one of those people that voted for Kung Fu Hustle and so many other things and help support the show at the same time, patreon.com/HMP. And you can be like the awesome people who support this show, who have also are doing interesting and neat things themselves. Did you guys know that we have people that listen to this podcast that support this podcast that also are podcasters themselves? That's right.
I did.
We've got the guys from why we have been watching. We've got the Main Attraction podcast. We've got the All American Spook Show, and we got one from Noah. And I'd like to read his email. Oh, I forgot. Hold on. It's been a minute.
Bale's here.
This one comes to us from Noah of the Dark Woods. Noah writes, "Hello, HMP. Can't express how much I love your podcast. It's the very first thing I listen to every Monday. That's why I am proud to be a Patreon supporter. I wanted to take you up on promoting my podcast, How We Sees It. Like HMP, we take a look at movies and series and discuss them. We have out our little spin, like the HMP, like Bruce's Comic Book Connection, Adam's Fabulous List, and Sean's relating it back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone. For us, it's all about pairing a cocktail to what we're watching. Not only do we get to try some fun new cocktail, it gives us an excuse to put away a few while we talk about shows. So if you love HMP like I do and cocktails, you might enjoy our little podcast. Thanks in advance and giving us a listen. Noah from the Dark Woods."
Awesome, Noah. So How We Sees It, is that the name of it?
Yeah, I think there's 3 E's in the C's and with a Z at the end.
That was going to be my next question, because we want people to check it out, so they got to know how to spell C's.
Yeah. Thanks to those guys and everybody that supports this show. And if you can't do that, drop us a 5-star review on iTunes, aka Humdinger.
Humdinger.
Go buy yourself some Dirty Babies merch. You know how it all is. We got cool stuff everywhere. All right, let's get into it now. Normally, the trailers for foreign language films will be a little bit out of, they usually don't have a lot of English in them. So I've kind of devised a little bit of a thing using the American trailer, because I also want to set the stage a little bit for how this movie was marketed towards people as well. Okay?
Yeah, which is interesting, yes.
So here's the trailer for Kung Fu Hustle. In a town ruled by gangs, in a slum ruled by landlords, 2 sides will battle, and one hero will triumph. A film by Stephen Chow. Kung Fu Hustle. Alrighty, that was the trailer for Kung Fu Hustle. You know what time it is?
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Oh, what you got for us this week, Bruce?
There's no Kung Fu Hustle comic book, but that doesn't mean there isn't a superhero in the movie. And you have to remember, as many Facebook memes shared by your great aunt will attest, not all heroes wear capes. Some heroes wear hair curlers and a house coat. They chain smoke Marlboros and they run like the Wizard on his way to get some free cheese fries. Now, in this movie, the hero is called Landlady, but I think her superhero name should be Trailer Park Lady. Now, you may or may not know that I lived in a trailer park for about 5 years as a child, so I know a little bit about that, what we call TPL, the trailer park life.
Yeah.
And we had another TPL. That's what we called the trailer park lady. Also, it was Tuesday potato lattes were TPLs. We called almost everything TPL, so I don't want to get too far off. But we did have a trailer park lady. I mean, just stereotypical. Had the curlers in her hair all the time. Never saw her with curly hair, just saw her with curlers in her hair. Wore the house coat, the slippers, smoked the Marlboro, scowled, sat on the front porch. She was mean. Her name was Annie. Now, I'm not going to give her last name, but her name was Annie, and she was way meaner than you expect somebody named Annie to be. Like, I think some of her kids also lived in the trailer park, her adult children, so they were like the local bigwigs, the nobles, the lords of the trailer park. But I don't know why she was so mean, man. She would, like, just give me these sneers. Well, I mean, it might have been because my cousin shot an arrow through her kitchen window. I mean, it, like, busted out the kitchen window, and it stuck in her kitchen table, and then he, like, handed me the bow and ran away, and I stood there like an idiot, so I got in all kinds of trouble, and he got away with it. So, yeah, maybe she had a reason to hate me, but still, she was mean to other kids, too. She was even mean to the kids who didn't nearly kill her with a bow and arrow. And also, like, when you're going past her place, she didn't want to make eye contact because you were going to get that snarl. She was going to give you, like, the old, we used to call it the old granny goodness, if you know what I mean. So you usually run past and just stare at the ground. But, speaking of granny goodness, I really didn't know what to do with this connection. So speaking of granny goodness from Jack Kirby's Fourth World, Adam, do you have a list?
Oh, we got all the granny goodness you could possibly want over here, baby. If that wasn't enough to sell everybody on this, let me tell you about this 2004 Now Kung Fu classic, because this sucker has got everything. You've got Stephen Chow, the man they said would be the next Jackie Chan. Well, we see how that worked out. But Yinwu Ping is your stunt coordinator, but don't worry, when he can't get to the set, you got some guy named Sammo Hung, so, whatever. We got our two ne'er-do-well no-gooders who Chow actively does not want you to like. Landlords who are so amazing they gave them 2 sequels of their own. We got the tailor, the coolie, the noodle maker, the mute girl, the bucktooth girl. Don't look at me, I didn't write that. The Asian, retro Asian gangsters, Neon Skies, the Axe Gang and their 8,000 members, fireworks, Buzzbig Berkeley dance numbers, giant money, pigsty city, outdoor bathing, half moon flaunting, curlers, moo and a cigarette, beyond scary. We got the old haircut hustle, farm lady punching, rip little kids, hot water scalding, leg chopping, head bashing, shotgun blast to the back, flip-flop beatings, 36 chambers of Shaolin rings, Tommy guns, bow staff action, Rob Schneider as an old Asian bum selling kung fu manuals, knife stabbing, snake lip biting, Looney Tunes running, light box beating, crummy jazz, 2 blind harpists, heads blowing off, rubber bodies, a demon-shattering lion roar scream. With great power comes great responsibility. And what are you prepared to do from the Untouchables makes an appearance. A bus revenge, lolly smashing, saber dance, not too subtle Shining reference, casino fights, crocodile loafers to the face, Bruce Lee knockoff from the lady, Bruce Lee outfit from Stephen Chow, and even the actor who was a actual Bruce Lee knockoff is in this movie. Funeral bell action, head caving in, frog battle in the hand, over the top acting everywhere, and a movie that is a love letter to movies. This sucker's got everything.
Nice, Adam. I think that might be your best list yet. I think you felt the most enthusiasm on that one yet.
There's so much going on in this movie, and it's an hour and a half long.
It's crazy, right? How do they cram all that gram?
This is a very Adam Portress movie to me.
Yeah, it was so up my alley and stuff. And I had a Kung Fu Hustle poster, like a double-sided poster, like in my house for years and years hanging on the wall. So, like, big fan.
I was very, very pleasantly surprised by this movie because I had not seen it before. I was expecting not to like it as much as I did. I had seen Shaolin Soccer, and it's fine, but it's not like this. And I don't want to show my hand too early. Like, I don't want to give away exactly how I feel about the movie, but I could watch it all day, every day for the rest of my life, probably.
Yeah, don't tip your hand too much, man.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, guys. You see you know that I have a reputation for being a fan of what the French call le humeur des broad. So, pie in the face, slapstick, slip on a banana. I love it all. So this really hit the absurdity buttons that I like. Like, man, this is Greasy Strangler absurd.
There's a YouTube channel I watch who just very recently said one of the guys on that show said if they ever make a Garbage Pail Kids movie remake, the guys who make the Greasy Strangler should be behind it.
It'd be perfect. Oh gosh, maybe not perfect, but it'd be interesting.
Perfect in that way that you may not want it to be.
This movie, guys, I just got to talk about it as a first timer because you guys had both seen it before, and I hadn't. So as a first timer, I got to tell you that the structure of the movie is a little disorienting to me as a first timer when it starts out. But there's so much humor there. It keeps you going. Like, I don't even know, like, is there going to be a hero? Until the very end, I'm not exactly clear who the hero is, you know? Like, but it's just so fun with the stupid stuff. I mean, as a guy who was raised on Top Secret and Airplane and things like that, the scene throwing the knives, trying to throw the knives.
Oh, God, it's so funny.
I know, and it's so stupid funny. And that's what I like.
Funny.
I was laughing so hard. I'm jumping all around, guys, because I'm like a fangirl here. I'm like starstruck. Like I just met John Lennon. I'm about to pass out. Paul McCartney, whoever had the cute hair. Anyway, I'm such a fan here. Oh, gotta catch my breath. But the moment when they're doing like the Roadrunner chase down the road, the Looney Tunes pure, every time the landlady would run, more or less, but in particular when she's chasing Stephen Chow, I'm laughing so hard my kids thought I was on drugs or something. They're like, what are you laughing at? And I'm pointing and they're like, that is stupid, not funny. And I'm like, no, you had to be here from the beginning. This is stupid funny. So I think that it is a shame that I've missed 18 years. 18 years of my life I could have been watching Kung Fu Hustle that I haven't. I'll never get that time back, guys.
Yeah.
But look at it like this, Bruce. Look at it like this. Like you, for the first time, like you thought you'd seen it all, and then bam, in comes Kung Fu Hustle.
From an outsider's perspective here, being the first time watcher, this movie holds up. I was powered by zero nostalgia, not a lot of effects laden Hong Kong / Cantonese Kung Fu cinema holds up 18 years later. This one really does. Well, I don't know if this is blasphemy, but I'm going to say it holds up better than Hidden Tiger, Crouching Dragon, or whatever that's called.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Well, they're very different movies, and that's what was so kind of great about this movie and the time that it was out. It was kind of the perfect 2004 was a perfect storm for this movie. So like Yen Wu Ping had enough like big credits up at that point in America to where his name even being attached to this, even if you didn't know who Stephen Chow was, right? They said, listen, the guy who did, Crouching Tiger and The Matrix and, all 8,000 other great Kung Fu movies, he's going to be doing this one. And like he was at the top of the game at that point. He was literally even like, there's a reference to The Matrix 2 in this movie.
Oh, I missed that one.
Where there's like the big brawly fight and everything that's happening is straight from Matrix 2.
That's straight Agent Smith. I didn't even catch on to it. I was thinking of,
and if you watch, and that's
different.
What's so great about him,
and kind of framed top down, just like, oh, you're right. How did I miss that?
Yeah, but they're all over the place. And like when I say that this is a love letter to movies, it is a love letter to so many different types of movies, which also kind of confounds me a little bit when you like that Kung Fu Hustle poster that I was telling you about. There's a quote at the top. Roger Ebert says, "Imagine a film in which Jackie Chan and Buster Keaton meet Quentin Tarantino and Bugs Bunny." Like that's how Roger Ebert phrased it.
I'm going to give it a review from a little bit different perspective than Ebert. And I know that it's a Chinese film. It's not a Japanese film, but this is the closest I've ever seen live action come to feeling exactly like anime. The humor, the action. I mean, it really captures that better than any anime adaptation I've ever seen has. And I think that's just impressive.
Yeah, it's wild. It's all over the place. And yet it is so very focused. And like I said, the amount of stuff that you can do in 90 minutes.
Dragon Ball power up for no good reason at just the right moment. I mean, it is so. It's clearly there are homages to lots of Western cinema. I think that Stephen Chow also is familiar with anime because there's some anime tropes that are being poked and turned, just like the Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner stuff.
Well, there's stuff in this movie that is so specific to Chinese cinema because I did a deep dive this week on this movie. Because I caught a couple of the Western references, but I didn't know how far deep he was going to go into, Eastern influences. And it is so far down the rabbit hole. It it's kind of insane just how far deep down the hole it goes.
And also something I read, which was like just below the surface of the rabbit hole. I didn't have to go too deep, but like in China, this has a lot of political implications because it was a co-production between Hong Kong and what I call quote unquote the rest of China. I don't know what other word used for it, non Hong Kong, traditional mainland China. And it was kind of showing sort of the transition from being old fashioned to being modern, so that like the Cantonese speakers would see like becoming more like the way things are in Hong Kong is not something to be afraid of or something like that. Like apparently it has political implications that if you're familiar with the politics in Hong Kong and China in 2004 would be quite significant. However, to me, I love that when he looks silly like the Roadrunner.
But they were doing so many like cool things at that time, and like I said, 2004 is like the really neat time that this could actually happen, where they had the ability to do these special effects and stuff. Around this time, there was another movie that the lady who plays Bucktooth Jane in this movie, she was in another movie called The Warriors of Zoo, YU. Or is it ZU, I think.
Wow, what a weird way to spell zoo. But
yeah.
I was going with.
And it is like this. It's like Kung Fu Hustle, but it's not. None of it's funny, and it's all like crazy.
Oh, no.
It looks like what are Silverhawks? It looks like Asian Silverhawks,
nice
with fighting and stuff. It's really like that plus Kung Fu. Like Silverhawks plus Kung Fu.
What did you say it's called? High School Zoo? Something Zoo?
Legend of Zoo, I think.
Okay.
I believe is the name of it. But like there was so much weird and interesting stuff going on at that point, and so many different influences from everywhere. The fact that this was released in America by like Sony Classics was really, that's got to say, I mean, because Sony Classics was the same people that put out Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, right? Mm-hmm. So they put out that, and then, you know, Tarantino then quickly revived Iron Monkey, which came out in like the early 90s and stuff. They revived it, brought it out here in America, redubbed it and everything. And I think that plus a couple other things, and then Jet Li movies started getting big again. Everything just started really having this second
Isn't this
martial arts renaissance kind of time.
Around Ong Bak time too?
Ong Bak's a bit later, a little later if memory serves.
Because I thought that was when I was still living in Nashville, which would have been around 2003, 2004.
It's in that neighborhood, I think, right at the top. Why do my brain keeps thinking 2007 for some reason, but I don't know off the top of my head.
And I tend to get my years run off a little bit too.
But
do you guys, because this is a movie that's about many things, but it is also about like gags. And I'm going to say, to me, it's like The Mask, Jim Carrey, The Mask level of gags, only far more satisfying for some reason. And I know it's not necessarily a competition between which is better, this or The Mask, but just the ridiculous gags worked for me so much better here because The Mask kind of tries to explain them, and I prefer the lack of explanation.
Oh, yeah. It's just, there needs to be no explanation. And that's what I think for some people might throw them for a loop if they're not expecting a movie that's of this wackiness level and everything, that you're not going to like learn, oh, by the way, everyone in this in Pigsty has superhero powers. No, it's just a movie. It's just that's just how we're having fun. Shut up.
Do you guys have a favorite gag? Because, boy, this could be a conversation that's difficult because there's so many gags. I think I have a favorite gag.
Okay.
I think my favorite gag was when he first comes into town and he wants to beat somebody up. And you know, everybody, he picks the short guy who stands up and he's like a freak of nature, picks the old guy who comes out and he's all full of muscles. Then he picks the little kid, and the little kid is also full of muscles. That's when I lost it. I was like, okay, that's probably my favorite gag. That is the top secret gag of the movie.
I mean, everything from Top Secret to Looney Tunes, and like there's a whole bunch, like there's so many different things that even just that scene alone could be pulling from, and like that's what I love about it. It just feels like this great jukebox of jokes.
My favorite bit in this is when the landlord and the landlady keep every time the camera turns, they're sitting next to the people with their arms around them.
Yeah.
That is such an amazing gag. I've got to tell you, one of the things that I'm going to forget if I don't talk about it is just how competently made this movie is with the lighting, with the camera, with the photography. You know, there is a care to this movie that lesser movies don't have. You know, I think that Stephen Chow really likes being a filmmaker. And so this is basically to me, and somebody's going to disagree, but I think this is his best movie. And so to have, you know, like, just dude at height of his powers, just making the very best movie he can possibly make with what seems like unlimited funds, just based on how much is in this movie. This is one of those movies where it feels like when everybody wanted to make a Tarantino movie and nobody could do it because no one's Tarantino. Mm-hmm. It feels like this is one of those movies that everybody sees and goes, oh, I can make that also. And it's just, you know, it ends up looking like date movie or superhero movie, those guys.
And as far as the look goes, I like it that there was enough budget to give it just a little flair, a little style. Like, it would have been less expensive not to use some of those classic old cars, those old roadsters that the gang drives, to kind of give it that sort of pseudo 1920s, 30s look. You know, it could have been cheaper to set it in a different time period where you don't have to acquire all that. But, you know, the fact that he was kind of given the necessary resources to actually make, like you said, something that looks beautiful on screen. It looks as good as any 2004 Hollywood production, in my opinion.
Well, this is one of the things that where it is showing you a bit of Eastern culture, because there is a very famous Chinese television show that takes place basically in the same part of where the Axe Gang comes from. And, you know, they're at the police station and they're in charge of everything. Like that one corner in Hong Kong there's a TV show that ran for like 10 years, and, you know, like 2 or 3 really famous Chinese actors come from the show, and it's based on the police dealing with organized crime in the 20s. And so this is one of those moments where you're like, oh, when I learned that doing my research for this week, I was like, oh, that I would never have guessed that's where that came from. That creative decision came from, was that.
And it even made me enjoy, like, the world's just a little too small. You know what I mean? With the randomly running into the mute girl. But I do like the idea that I think that they pushed right up to the ledge of he is their son that they thought was dead, but they're like too dumb to make that last connection.
Yes.
I love how you think that's going to be the final declaration. And then they're like, no one here is capable of seeing this, even though it's obvious to all of us.
Well, one of the other things that I learned about this is that the tiger scream, or whatever it is that they call it, that she has,
lion roar. Yeah.
The lion roar that she has, and the Buddhist palm are both from the same movie, from like the early 80s. And the actor who plays the landlord is in that movie.
Oh, that is so cool.
It's yet again just another moment where you're like, oh, Stephen Chow is basically making the movie that he wanted to make his entire life.
Yeah.
And it's
now,
go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say that also, not only is he making the movie he's wanted to make his entire life, like you said, he's got all those influences bottled into it, but it does have that feeling like, I've had a whole lifetime of these dumb jokes I can't wait to tell, so we're not going to waste a minute, because boy, do they fly all through this.
Yeah.
And that's what's so funny, because like Stephen Chow was kind of like, after this movie, this is when everyone was just like, oh, he's going to be this next big thing. Like I said, when the breakdown, they were like talking, he's going to be like the next Jackie Chan, the guy who will, star in and direct his own stuff and stuff like that. And like, because this movie was hilarious and everybody loved it. And anyone that saw it was just like, wow, I can't wait to see the next big thing that guy does. And he did a movie called like C7, which was kind of like an E.T. ripoff, which is fine. It's all right. But like, he's never really come to this level again. Like, he was supposed to direct the Green Hornet thing at some point, and then like he was just going to be in.
Imagine how good Green Hornet would have been if he directed it, though.
That's why I was so excited about it.
Would he have also played Kato? Because I feel like he would have gotten double duty.
That was precisely the idea. Was he was going to play Kato and direct the movie, and apparently him and Tony Jaa. Speaking of which, by the way, I found out 2003 for Ong Bak. So yeah, same time.
I'm looking at that right now too.
But he has the kind of that same Tony Jaa problem where they can get a little bit crazy and then just go off and then do who knows what, and no one's quite sure where they're at. But they may be a genius, but also quite mad at the same time as well.
I didn't know that about Stephen Chow.
Yeah, it's one of those. That's what I hear. These may be apocryphal.
Me and Stephen Chow's people rarely talk to one another. So,
but he was one of those things where it was just like, oh, this is going to be the next kind of big guy, and it was really like his last real big movie that, at least here in America, that we saw.
I mean, because seeing this guy seems like a genius. Like and I'm not saying that in my sometimes kind of cheesy way of saying something. I mean, this guy seems like it's so hard for comedy to cross cultural boundaries, and it's for him to do it as well as he has. I consider him a comedic genius when I see this movie, and it's sad.
That's the thing. He's definitely taking a lot of those certainly American influences. It's funny, like I said, with that the Ebert quote on the poster and everything, where he goes, "Oh, he's like Buster Keaton." I was like, well, he's not like Buster Keaton. Buster Keaton is stone-faced. This guy's not stone-faced. If anything, he's closer to Chaplin than he is to Buster Keaton, which was odd.
He has the courage to be terrible at kung fu through most of this movie.
Yeah.
Like I like that he's always getting his butt kicked. I mean, people peed on him when he was a little boy. Like, and that was one of those things I kind of thought a little bit about, like The Room, where he repurposed the sex scene twice to get more like titillation in it. They had to show the pee scene twice. Like, he flashed back to being peed on 2 times.
Just in case you forgot, there were bad times back then. But like, I think the thing that I like about it is how despicable that character actually is. They don't make him that good almost at all. Like when that last bit, like when they steal her ice cream, when they steal ice cream from her cart and everything, and he's riding on the back of the bus, his maniacal laughter in her face that he got this ice cream and is now, freed from her is just absolute maddening, because you're just like, oh, I found out you were that girl who I saved the other day. I'm gonna smash this lollipop, steal your stuff, and then laugh in your face. What a garbage person he is.
I started thinking about a silent voice when he was bullying the deaf girl.
Yeah, but it all comes back. But again, when the fight in Pigsty really kicks off with the Coolie and the Tailor and Donut and everything.
Oh,
that's
man,
when that Yen Wu Ping stuff rolls into town. It is so good, because the fights up until that point are just okay. They're fine. You see some people getting shot up and everything.
Well, I was going to say we also get some absurdity, like where, like when the landlady throws the landlord down and his head breaks the bricks out of the wall on the way down, and I thought he was dead, and the little planter falls on his head like the flowers growing out of the back of it.
But again, also the great comedy piece of then putting that back on top of his head to try to scoop the dirt up around your ears. No one sees me. I'm not here. It's so good. I love it. But I will. All right, so I do need to pick on a couple of things. This watching, I did find some things that I can kind of scratch at just a little bit. And these are little nits to be picked in a giant movie that I absolutely love. The score for this is terrible. The score is is really, really bad.
But Adam, like every other movie, in the 2000s, like the early 2000s specifically, soundtracks were just the worst during that phase. Mm-hmm. Like I'm trying to think of a movie where I was like, oh, that's actually a really good soundtrack, and I can't think of one.
Like around this time,
Mission Impossible 2.
Well, okay, if we're looking around this 2000,
there you go, right there. There's a really awful one, yeah.
Yes,
2003 time and stuff. But like you've got your Howard Shore's Lord of the Rings stuff out, and then this, it's so vastly different in the worst ways possible. And so like just the horrible jazz and stuff. I'm like, man, if this was real
worked for me, I think it worked for me in a strange way.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it can be evocative of a silly time when we when we decided to make bad music and put it into movies, but I mean, I
Wow,
guess
that's something to specifically be evocative of.
you remember the really bad times when we didn't care and we thought this sounds just as good as an actual orchestral arrangement. What are you on? No, it does not. And even then, it didn't even really like start to get halfway decent until probably mid 2000s before they started getting stuff that didn't sound like it was placed on a Casio keyboard. They just oh, so bad. What was the other thing that I like? That was one of my main gripes, was that the score is just absolutely atrocious.
That didn't bother me. That's the kind of thing sometimes it goes over my head. I don't always.
Yeah, but Bruce, I mean, of the three of us, I have really bad taste in music also, but it pales in comparison to the kind of music that you listen to. Like,
You don't need to hold back. I can handle it.
I was watching a documentary yesterday about outsider music, and I was like, Bruce would love every single one of these songs. And there's an album called Songs in the Key of Z, which I'm guessing if you haven't heard it, you're going to want to.
Okay. Okay. Songs of the Key of Z. I'll be right back.
Uh-oh, there's a problem.
Uh-oh.
What in the world was that? For real, what was that?
I think that was you, my friend.
How did I do that?
No, that was me.
Oh, that was
Okay,
you.
I was like,
Oh,
whoa,
wow.
how did I do that?
Normally, I would put this on a Bruce thing, but my.
No, that was me this time. I mistakenly hit my watch and it recorded every single thing I just said.
So did you guys notice the very, very like subtle imagery or symbolism when they had that butterfly coming out of the cocoon just as Chow was coming out of his zombie rap with new powers?
I keep
like a butterfly?
screaming at the television. What are you trying to say to me?
Yeah, I don't get
Spell
things.
it out.
I
So.
love the subtlety. It's my kind of subtlety. It's
Well,
right up with Kevin James's humor. Very subtle.
I'm surprised there wasn't a train going into a tunnel scene at some point.
Yeah, no kidding.
like that's the only other metaphor that we didn't quite get.
For a silly kind of slapstick over the top kung fu movie, they didn't go with any female exploitation in it, which is something that they would do a little bit more in something like from the 80s,
You're right. You're absolutely right.
And I'll say this because I think from the outside perspective, there's a lot of ways you can read everything, everybody. But I think some of the we'll call it homophobic, slightly homophobic stuff that goes on in this movie. But
she uses the word fairy quite a bit in a very.
Yes.
But it's done.
At first, I thought maybe that was just his name at first, and then I realized no, they're playing Zorro the Gay Blade here.
No, and honestly, like he's one of the that character is one of the most hilarious characters in this entire thing,
And
But
one
the
of the
best-
most capable.
Exactly. He takes no guff from anyone because, like, when they just go, like, hey, we're trying to scam you out of this haircut, he's the only person who just goes, like, listen, I'm not falling for this. This is a bunch of crap. You're trying to blackmail me. I'm not. And he's, oh, you want to kill me? Go ahead and kill me. I don't even care.
Whoever directed Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is obviously a big fan of this movie and this character.
Clearly.
I can't remember the character's name, but he's the tailor or the whatever. I guess a tailor, right? Like that's what he is. Makes clothes and stuff.
Yeah, he's Taylor.
But, like,
And he
that,
wears his nice red underwear under his white shorts, though. I did like that.
yeah, but again, very capable character and everything, and he's like one of the toughest dudes there. So while it has those things that I'm sure, if you look at from a very surface thing, seems, harsh and mean and stuff, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as certainly in 2003 that it could have been coming from, Hong Kong.
Coming from mainland China. Yes.
Yeah, so
Agreed.
With what you're given and the time you're giving it during this, you should be like, hey, that's pretty good. That's pretty good because they're not demeaned characters by any stretch. They're fully fleshed out characters who have motivation and still work on. Let's talk about, speaking of motivations and stuff, and again, more references and everything. This movie is essentially Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven. It's that movie as well, which
It's quite a bit of movies.
But the reason is that it's still all those things still work is that it's just a perfect story. You can put that just about any time, any place, and it still ends up translating, and it does here as well. But the best part about this one is that it's not just, oh, we have to go outside to get somebody, because ultimately it's not 100% that, but this movie's almost Raiders of the Lost Ark in a lot of ways, that if Stephen Chow's not there up until the end, if Stephen Chow's not there, the majority of this movie happens exactly the same, except for the end. Once it gets to the end and he, finally discovers that he's like that 1 in a million chance of natural kung fu guys. Outside of that, though, it's pretty up in the air up until that point.
And I'm just looking over a list of all the references to see anything that I've missed, but a lot of them are Asian references.
But but to me, the same
Blues Brothers. They said the two assassins with the heart.
Oh yeah,
magic powers. Like a Blues
that
Brothers.
was another one in 2003. Seeing that, okay, after Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon had like this, it brought to America kung fu movies. That's how they tried to, like, in the late 90s, early 2000s, give us Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and they wanted to give us these kung fu movies in a lovely, artistic kind of art house sort of vibe. And while there are martial arts movies that do that, that certainly is not the majority of them. And so after that, we just started going into more fun stuff. We allowed ourselves as Americans to just go like, oh, so this is a wild and crazy fun action movie that, that they enjoy over there. We can enjoy that stuff over here because it doesn't have to be this like over the top dramatic thing that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was. And I think that may have turned some people off, because I want to tell you my Crouching Tiger story.
Hold on a second, because I can already feel that you're getting off tracks here with your thought. So basically, what you're trying to say is that not all foreign Chinese cinema is art house cinema.
No,
some of it can be in your major metroplex.
Exactly.
Kind of
this showed you that, like, oh, this can kind of be that mainstream sort of, this stuff would play in America if it was, done by American people. You'd be like, oh, this would be, a big comedy in this country if it was done, by Americans for Americans. And so, because it's very much like you saw with Bruce, it's very much of our taste.
Okay, now this is something I can't believe I didn't see without having to read it on Wikipedia. But here it claims that Kung Fu Panda, the 2008 Hollywood film, was inspired by Kung Fu Hustle, and I can kind of see it now.
Oh, I totally see it.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Oh, I love it that that's the way it is. Now makes me want to go watch Kung Fu Panda again. I like that Jack Black.
The first movie is good. The first movie is good.
I thought the second one, I remember the second one being good. I don't know that I saw the third one.
I don't remember the second one, but I know the first one I was like, hey, this is actually pretty funny.
And there was a 2009 Bollywood film inspired by it. I bet that one might be awesome too. It might be pretty funny. I have to check that one out.
Yeah, but instead of being an hour and a half, that one's 3.5 hours.
4.5, yeah.
They're just like, well, we wanted to tell a couple stories, and there was just not enough musical numbers.
I have not seen the movie, so I can't comment, but I feel like I need to call BS on this one, where it says Everything Everywhere All at Once is a 2022 Hollywood film inspired by Kung Fu Hustle. You guys have seen that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but do you think that's a stretch there? It sounds like a stretch from what I know.
No. I mean, because I kind of see it only because of the different genres that it's throwing together. That part makes sense. And this feels like a movie that, like, in 15 more years is one of those we're going to look back and say how truly influential it was, and maybe it was a little overlooked at its time. I mean, it was liked, but I don't know that I realized just how good it was. Like, I don't think its reputation was fair. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I think. See, here's the problem. I don't know that we talked about this on the pre-show. I don't know if we talked about it on the show proper. But Bruce did not think that Kung Fu Hustle was the movie Kung Fu Hustle was. You thought Kung Fu Hustle was Kung Pao Enter the Fist, or Return of the, whatever the hell that thing's called.
Yeah, something to do with the fist, Way of the Fist. I don't know.
Sure.
But Bruce, I mean, this movie is beloved, like, across the world. Like, this isn't
the weird thing is, maybe I was in a weird circle of friends at the time, but I just had heard no buzz. I mean, I would have seen this movie by now if I'd known how good it is. So maybe I just, like, for whatever reason, was ducking and dodging in 2004 from the good reviews, and who knows what.
Perhaps we've also learned that Bruce doesn't really have people that we might call friends at that point in his life. Because if someone's saying, "Hey, I don't want you to go see Kung Fu Hustle," I don't know how much we can call those
We're
people friends.
too busy watching that movie where Sam Rockwell is Chuck Barris and he kills people.
That's a good movie.
Oh, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Yeah, we watch that movie all the time.
Worldwide gross for this movie, $104 million. Not
That sounds low for how good this is.
Not that much, all things considered. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it was. Not that it was unappreciated. I just think maybe underappreciated for how awesome it is.
oh, if the people at Miramax would have gotten their hands on it, taken 15 minutes out and put a good Chumbawamba soundtrack in there, perhaps this movie would have gone someplace other than the dustbin of society. Where
I
clearly
He's a
it was.
Buckeyed Cherry. Nice.
In 2002, I was busy watching Shrek 2 and Spider-Man 2 nonstop. Passion of the Christ. How am I going to squeeze in Kung Fu Hustle when I got to watch the Passion of the Christ a bunch of times?
And listen, you fill up a day with whatever joy you can find, I always say.
Go through the 12 stations. Awesome.
Honey, which do you want to see? 50 First Dates or Kung Fu Hustle? You know where that's going.
Here's the thing, 50 First Days is a great movie.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
That is not a great
It's one of
I'll tell you what, if I could only see one movie in 2004 and my choices back then had been Starsky and Hutch or Kung Fu Hustle, I probably would have went with Starsky and Hutch and regretted it the whole time afterwards.
That movie's not that bad. It's not good, but it's
not good at all. That one is not good, man.
It's not Kung Fu Hustle
good.
good. No.
I don't think there's anything good about that Starsky and Hutch movie.
There are two good moments in Starsky and Hutch. One is the do it. It's a great.
Yes, that's a good one.
That's a great moment. And the other one is when Snoop is playing Huggy Bear and he says, you just went up a notch in my book, would put you at one notch.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
My favorite Snoop Dogg performance was when he was in the wheelchair. And what was the name? What was that flick? He was in
a wheelchair, Snoop Dogg?
Yeah, Snoop Dogg was in a wheelchair in some movie, and they threw him out of the wheelchair. Shucks, I can't remember.
Remember.
This is like 2003, this is like all the
comedy
2000s. Movie? No, it was not.
It was played as drama.
It was played.
It was Barbershop 2 back in business.
Shoot, I'll try to look it up for the post show. But man, it was hilarious, but not in the way that they were certainly intending.
That's awesome.
It's just like, man, he was like some crackhead in a wheelchair.
They just got a really, really skinny dummy.
My favorite movie of 2004 was The Lady Killers.
That's not true. That movie is no one's favorite.
Yeah, no one likes that movie.
You know what my favorite Coen Brothers movie is? The Lady Killers. Said no one
my
ever.
favorite Tom Hanks movie is The Lady Killers.
A lot of people like that Saving Private Ryan, and they're wrong. They're just dead wrong.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So back to Kung Fu Hustle though, man. This movie is a thing of beauty. It's a thing of humor. I love at the end when he finally unlocks his Buddhist palm power and it's making these giant handprints into the landscape. That's pretty cool. Not as cool as when the guy punched his head way down into a hole and then the old lady had to grab him and run away with him. It was pretty cool. This is a movie that I watched with subtitles. Did you guys watch subtitles or dub?
I'm not sure that you can watch this dub anywhere.
Okay, there may not be a dub. I don't know.
There is, because that's how I originally saw it, but it's been so many years. I don't know where I saw it.
This is one that if I was in a movie theater in Shanghai and I went in, and of course there's no subtitles, I could get me my Shanghai popcorn. I don't know what they eat instead of popcorn at Shanghai movie theaters. I've never been to one, but I'm just called Shanghai popcorn. I could sit there and watch this without having any understanding of the dialogue and love every minute of it. And that's rare. This is a movie I can have on the TV and just leave it on a loop for a while.
That should be the name of your podcast about anime, Shanghai Popcorn.
Oh, Shanghai popcorn.
Give them the old Shanghai popcorn. They know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I was afraid to be culturally insensitive to say they give you a box of, I don't know, some bizarre edible food. So I just said, I'm not even going to go there.
All right.
Scorpions. I wanted to say a box of scorpions. There,
I'll eat me a good old box of scorpions. You better believe it. All right. Before
that King Xi, what's his name? The guy that looks like Winnie the Pooh. I can't remember his name.
Oh, Xi Jinping.
Yeah, Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping.
I think that's worse than you calling him the other one.
Scorpions. Yeah.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. I think it was Training Day. Maybe it was 2001. Snoop Dogg and Training Day. I think he's in a wheelchair in that movie.
Unintentionally hilarious.
Yeah,
because that was not a real knee slapper. Training Day.
No, not mostly. Not mostly. All right, let's get down to it. Before we review this bad boy, though, we've got to ask ourselves one of the most important questions anyone else on the history of the planet can ever ask themselves is how does this movie relate back 1-to-1? Good luck with Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Hey there, Mr. Stallone. In an effort to show full disclosure, I must admit to you that there was a time when I would have had anxiety about this week's Stallone connection. I can remember when we were in the full-blown throes of the pandemic and Adam suggested that we watch a movie from Korea. I don't remember which one it was. And I thought to myself, when this pandemic is over, I'm going to travel to South Carolina so I can punch Adam in the face. But those days are over because I've learned that if you dig a little deeper, you can always find how a movie relates back to you. And you know what? Adam's got enough going on without the threat of physical violence from me. Now, this week we're reviewing Kung Fu Hustle, and yes, I had to do more digging than usual. So this week's connection to you is Steven Tickner, who happens to be the sound designer for Kung Fu Hustle. And I'm going to guess that he worked on the dubbed version sound because why would Stephen Chow use an American sound designer with an all-Chinese cast and crew? But I'm getting off track. Steven Tickner has been working on the Hollywood fishing vessel since 1988 when he was a sound editor for the TV show Paradise. I had never heard of this show, but it was an hour-long Western that starred Lee Horsley as gunfighter Ethan Cord, a man left to raise his dead sister's children. He tries to settle down in the town of Paradise, but he finds that his past continues to haunt him. This sounds like a TV show for elderly people, and I had never heard of the show. So, of course, there's over 50 episodes of the series. Ran for 3 years. You would probably like it, Mr. Stallone, seeing as how you've been an elderly person for over 10 years now. Steven Tickner would go on to work for Marvel movies and something called The Chub Chubs Save Christmas. But the reason why Steven Tickner is this week's Stallone connection is because he was the sound effects editor on Rocky Balboa, a movie in which a 60-year-old man gets into a boxing ring with the reigning heavyweight champion and get this, wins.
Spoiler, man, come on.
Instead of being murdered directly, which is actually what would have totally happened. And there you have it, Mr. Stallone. This week's Stallone connection is sound editor Steven Tickner. I hope to hear from you soon. Your pal, Sweet Shanzi from the internet.
How old was Joe Louis when he fought Rocky Marciano?
127 years old, if I'm to believe my sources.
I was going to say, that's all I know about old boxers is what I learned from coming to America in the barbershop.
Well, here. Oh, and I just not this guy was standing because, like you said, he was probably just doing the American stuff. The sound design for this movie is really great. All the punching and the kicking and like just real quality.
Everything with this movie is top notch.
Thick sounds, just when that meat gets hit, wow, so much. I love it.
This is like a highlight reel. I mean, this movie, it's crazy that this wasn't like a gateway to bigger and more better things.
Yeah, that's why I think Stephen Chow might be nuts.
I think this is his opus. I really do. I think, it's one of those things where, like, it's not going to get better than this. Like I know it's weird. It's Americans thinking like that, but go out on top if you can.
It's like S.E. Hinton wrote The Outsiders when she was 19, and then it was kind of hard to go on from there.
Sure. Or, like there's that super rare case of like, Steven Spielberg hits the bank like 7 times with movies where you're like, no, that's his best movie. No, that's his best movie.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen very often at all.
Check out King of Beggars. That's a Royal Tramp, another good one. There's like some of his older kind of, Hong Kong movies and stuff like that are really good too. He's always been a great comedian.
How about the older Steven Spielberg Hong Kong
Stephen
movies?
Chow.
Oh, okay. I had the wrong Steven in mind.
No. I do want to see that Feebleman's. I hear that's they saying that's
So,
good. That's all about.
How do we rate movies over here on Hero Movie Podcast?
We do it on
Adam?
the old Hero Movie Podcast Robin rating system. If you've never heard of it, why don't you go to reddit.com/r/Hero Movie Pod? It's right up there at the top of the screen. Sean, or no, let's start with Bruce. Bruce, you were the first person. This is your first time with the Kung Fu Hustle. What's your Robin rating on it, man?
Now, I watched it less than 12 hours ago. Like I told you before we started recording, I kind of didn't even remember that I needed to watch a movie till about 2 a.m. So I watched it this morning, and it's like, where's this been all my life? Like, this has to be Dick Grayson because it is easily top 10. And I don't mean top 10 movies. I mean top 10 concepts. Like, you've got the concept of food, music, the concept of love, Kung Fu. I'd actually put Kung Fu Hustle ahead of love, and then you put love in there. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. It is ridiculous how my life needs this.
Stephanie Brown.
Dick Grayson to the max.
Sean?
What I'm remembering, Bruce? I'm remembering because it kind of struck me as odd 2 weeks ago when you were like, so Sean, what are you hoping wins? And I was like, well, I really like Kung Fu Hustle, and I like this is a pretty good lineup. And so at the time when I said that I liked Kung Fu Hustle, did that take you by surprise since you know that? Yes.
I also found out that James Gunn allegedly called it the greatest movie ever made. And I think he and I see eye to eye on humor because I like his humor more, I think, than you guys do.
You do.
You're practically the same person.
So for me, this has been a Dick Grayson for a long time. I the first time I watched this movie, I couldn't even tell you at this point, but I think that it was the Netflix subscription service is probably the first time I watched this, and it was I had seen Shaolin Soccer first, and then I watched this, and so I saw it properly the way you're supposed to see it. And it's been great. And it's been something that, I've liked for a very long time. So it's a Dick Grayson for me.
Better love story in Shaolin Soccer.
Say what?
Better love story, like a romantic
love story, schmuff story. Give me the Roadrunner and Tweety Bird.
but I just say
it's just an easier, it's an easier story to tell, Shaolin Soccer, than this is. Like, I mean, even trying to explain this is like trying to explain the Matrix to someone who's never seen it before.
Well, it takes place in a reality that's not really a reality, but it is. No one has superpowers, but they do.
And it's the 20s, but it's also modern.
Yeah,
it's
we're
the
not
20s.
sure when this
in
is.
2010, Bill Murray called Kung Fu Hustle the supreme achievement of the modern age in terms of comedy. So high praise.
Book it. Put it down on there.
Are you trying to convince us that this is a good movie?
You need to watch this movie, guys.
Yeah, that's
thanks,
You
Bruce.
realize it also won the Patreon thing, and the people that all voted were like, "I love this movie. I want to hear you guys talk about this movie because I love this movie so much." That was their response.
If I reach one person who had no interest in the movie, it was a life worth living.
3 children this man has.
I love so much that Bruce just discovered this movie and now
trying
That's
to
my whole
trying to
personality
convince
for
us-
the next 10 days.
and now he's trying to convince us that it's a good movie.
Sell
And we're
it to
we
the
don't need
reluctant
convincing.
society.
We know it's great. I just gave it a Dick Grayson. No. I don't think you get it.
Hey,
This movie is amazing.
Dick Grayson's all around because that's what I'm giving it as well. This is a really good movie that some of us have known about for nearly 20 years at
Bruce,
this
tell
point.
him it's a good movie.
The Taipei Golden Horse Film Festival listed Kung Fu Hustle at number 48 of their list of 100 greatest Chinese language films.
Only 48? What the hell?
Yeah, come on, guys.
Yeah, okay, so there's a little bit of, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to get them all the way. Anyways, that is it, everybody. Another one down. So I'm so glad that you guys picked this because it also made me go like I need to get this on a higher format as well because it's like I had to stream it and it looked like garbage and I'm like, please, there needs to be a 4K of this somewhere.
Where did you stream it?
I streamed it off of Apple because it ended up being too late for the thing. And like, I'd got a physical copy of this disc somewhere in the archives, but I sure couldn't find it for the week.
I got a great stream off of YouTube.
I did.
That's not a joke.
I did Amazon. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I noticed. I noticed the YouTube thing much later after. Thank God I didn't purchase it because I was just like, no, I can't purchase this because I own it somewhere and I know I can get something that's going to be better. So, anywho, it's available on YouTube for freezies if you want to go do that as of this recording at least. So who knows how things change? But things change here all the time. But until next week, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Well, we were talking about YouTube. That's a good place to go check some stuff out. I think I've mentioned it before, but I had a friend of the show from All American Spook Show, Josh Atkins, did a video with me, and we might be working together some more in the future. We'll just have to wait and see on that. And I've been doing some live streams and going to try to get something out every day of December just to see if I can do it or not.
Wow,
so over
that's
there,
amazing.
check it out. YouTube.com/C/Bruce Leslie.
Are you taking weekends off?
Probably doing all my work on the weekends and spacing it out through the week, but we'll see. We'll just see. We'll see how it goes.
Man, that's so great, man. That's like Zay Frank did for a year back when.
I can't do it for a year. I'm what is today? The 3rd? I'm already worried. No, the 4th. I'm already worried about missing tomorrow. So I'm going to keep bumping.
She's worried about the back rent. She'll be lucky to get in the front rent. All right, here we go. Sean, what else?
We have a show called 30 Questions. We are currently on hiatus, waiting for a new show to do 30 questions about. So we are on hiatus now. Our next thing is Mandalorian season 3. Is that right?
That's at least the one that we know about. Shooting out they'll pop us on something in 5 minutes.
I watched the first half episode of Willow, and I don't want to cover the show, but I do have a lot of questions. So maybe we'll cover Willow just as a one-off on H&B, because boy, there's some stuff to ask about.
Well, as everybody knows, Willow is the best fantasy movie that's ever been made.
It's right up there.
So no, it is. So like that's one, and then it's whatever.
Pound sand, Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see no brownies in Lord of the Rings. You know what I'm saying?
You make a good point.
Fair enough. Join us next week, everybody, when we're going to be talking about Wednesday on Netflix right now. So get this little Wednesday.
How much are we watching of Wednesday?
I think you're going to love it, Sean. So let's say 3 eps.
That's fine by me.
All right.
Yeah, that'll be about 3 hours, but I bet you we'll talk to you and you're going to say you went ahead and watched more.
I'll be honest with you. That may be the case because even my brother and his wife, when I had lunch with them today, and they were like, was not something we were looking forward to. And all of a sudden they just binged it in like no time flat. So
as long as they don't try to sexualize Wednesday Addams, I'm going to be fine. And I think Tim Burton, as much as he's been a joke for the last 20 years, I think that he's the right guy for this job.
And I don't want to give you any spoilers, but they do sexify Louise Guzman.
Woo! Thank God. All right.
Thankfully.
Now we'll have something to talk about.
They probably had to take it down a little bit.
Like turn that down.
Like this is for television for kids. We gotta pump the brakes a little bit. What do you think this is, Disney?
I can only get so you know what.
That's it, everybody. Join us next week when we're talking Wednesday. For Sweet Sean's and Kovacs from the Internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Porters. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
Do the hustle.